Cities across the UK, the day has come, the morning has broken. They're now looking today towards the capital as they witness what the future may hold in store for them after London's controversial clean air scheme, the Ulez scheme, expanded, rolling out to all of the capital's 32 boroughs.
But combined with the rising cost of living, many living in London are concerned how the scheme will impact their personal finances. And, of course, that concern is reflected right across the country as well. So we spoke to one anti-Ulez campaigner.
So, effectively, I don't have transport. It's as simple as that. This is what I use every day. This is what I won't be able to use anymore. Our public transport system, the nearest... Can you see any buses come past here? Because they don't. I'm trapped in my own home, but financially, physically, and also morally at the moment, because of that, I will not be paying this charge.
Well, London's Mayor Sadiq Khan, who's brought it in, joins us now. You're either the saviour of Londoners' health or the destroyer of their personal finances and livelihoods, depending on which side of the fence you sit. Do you have any idea how much money this expanded Ulez scheme will raise, and what will you put that money to?
Good morning.
Good morning.
So the decision to expand the Ulez was a difficult one, but a vital one because of the public health crisis caused by the consequences of air pollution. And to answer your question directly, the expansion of Ulez and the Ulez policy in of itself is not a policy to raise revenues. In fact, when you include the setup costs of the Ulez, after a couple of years, no money is made at all from the ultra-low emission zone because of more vehicles being compliant. Over the next 2 years, any money that's made net is used to invest in public transport, whether it's the Superloop in outer London, whether it's the expansion by 1 million kilometres of additional buses in outer London. This is a policy that addresses the crisis in our city. There are around 4,000 premature deaths a year because of air quality in our city. There are children with stunted lungs forever because of air pollution. Adults with a whole host of health issues, from asthma to cancer, dementia to heart disease, all caused by air pollution. So we know the evidence in relation to air pollution, but also we know the Ulez works. How do we know that? Because we began the Ulez in central London and we saw a reduction in air pollution by almost 50%. You know, a third fewer children were admitted to hospital with air pollution-related illnesses. We then expanded it to inner London, saw a further 21% reduction in air pollution. There are children going to 1,400 schools who are now benefiting from clean air. But here's the problem. In outer London, we've not seen anywhere near those levels of improvement. The 10 boroughs with the largest number of premature deaths are all in outer London. 2/3 of Londoners who have respiratory problems live in outer London.
So you're categorically, on the record, cogently denying that this is a fundraising exercise. This is a purely environmental health issue. You're stating that on the record on the day that it starts. It's nothing to do with raising money. Yep.
Absolutely. Let me go a step further, Richard, because this government said to me a couple of years ago that I need to be expanding the congestion charge. That would have been a cash grab. That would have been to raise money. The Ulez policy is a public health policy. And you know what? Experts from Imperial College to King's College, the chief medical officer, the World Health Organization, all say air pollution is a public health crisis. But many experts also agree Ulez is the most effective policy in cleaning up our air in the world. If clean air is good enough for central London and inner London, why not outer London?
Is it going to make that much difference, though? Because in defence of this plan, I've heard again and again and again your supporters, you yourself, saying it's going to affect very few drivers. There aren't that many vehicles who are going to fall into this particular catchment. So it's not going to make that much difference, is it, to the air quality?
Well, firstly, can I just say I fully accept there are some Londoners with concerns. I'm not in denial that some Londoners have concerns. But the good news is, when I first embarked on this journey, only about 44% of cars were compliant in our city. That figure is now 97% in inner London. In outer London, 90% of cars seen driving on an average day are compliant. But it will make a difference. I'll tell you why. There is no level of air pollution that is safe. Our predictions are the expansion will lead to a reduction of nitrogen dioxide, which is the main pollutant, by around 10% from cars, a reduction of around 16% in particulate matter. And when I tell you that the 30 GP practices in London with the largest number of patients with respiratory problems like asthma and the like, 24 of the 30 are in outer London. So we've got to do something about that.
I suppose the problem is that it is fact there's a big hole in Transport for London's budget, and it is a fact that when anything comes down to money, that is going to proportionally affect the poorer, isn't it? So immediately there's going to be people that are unhappy. We've already seen damage to the Ulez signs that have gone up. We've seen some areas refusing to put the Ulez signs up. Maybe not helpful because people will get caught and find they pay a fine if they don't see the signs. But that is the level of anger from people. You are making an impassioned case for why you're doing it. Can you understand why Sir Keir Starmer, your party leader, isn't backing you? Do you feel thrown under a bus?
No, not at all. You know, Keir's a friend I've known for more than 25 years. I understand the concerns that Londoners have and others may have. But look, we've got a public health crisis in our city. But there is some good news, which is, in fact, half of households in London don't own a car. 70% of the poorest families in London don't own a car. So it's those least likely to own a car who suffer the worst consequences of air pollution. But also what we've done is make sure we've addressed the concerns people have by having the biggest scrappage scheme we can possibly have
yes, but Mr.
to support those people affected.
Kate's point was a political one. I mean, we saw in the Uxbridge by-election an extraordinary result tied against the Tories in a series of by-elections on the same night. We saw Uxbridge held by the Tories and they had campaigned against your policy. So politically, that's why the leader of the Labour Party is leaning so heavily on you. He sees lost votes in supporting the Ulez scheme.
And in fact, your own polling has shown it's gone significantly down in the new regions. So politically, you might take a hit from this. Is that no concern of yours?
Look, can I say that the reasons why I'm in favour of the ultra emission zone and the expansion is based on the evidence. I'm a pragmatic politician. This is not me being evangelical and no matter what the cost, I'm going to do this policy. Londoners want to breathe cleaner air. Londoners want to see their mayor tackling this air pollution crisis.
Are you worried about votes for Labour, be it in a general election, a by-election or the next mayoral elections?
Well, the key thing that Keir Starmer and I agree on, and by the way, it's really important to make this point, is I'm not saying it's a one-size-fits-all approach. What's right for London is not right for Luton. What's right for Bermondsey is not right for Burnley. What the Conservatives have tried to do is to weaponise this policy. And by the way, they published the Air Quality Directive saying mayors are going to do something about this. They've supported clean air zones around the country, from Birmingham to Bristol to Bath. Only recently have the Conservatives tried to weaponise this
yes, but can
policy.
we keep it to Mr Starmer? I mean, you say he's an old buddy. Has he let you down?
No, not at all. I'm going to work my utmost to make sure Keir is the next Prime Minister, doing my utmost to make sure those people across the country, not just in London, who feel let down by this government for the last 13, 14 years, have hope under Keir Starmer's premiership.
There has been dispute over your figures, some of the figures that you've even quoted this morning about the evidence of how much this helps, partly because, of course, not the clean air problem in London and other cities isn't just due to emissions from cars, is it? It's also industry, it's also various other different things, including burning wood and other fumes and coal and all of that. So you've quoted those figures. They've been disputed. And indeed, you say it doesn't work elsewhere. Manchester's abandoned their plans, for instance. So why are you pressing on with it and feeling so confident about your figures?
Well, firstly, it's quite normal for experts to disagree, to debate and so forth. The overwhelming majority of evidence is quite clear in relation to the causes of air pollution are similar to the causes of climate change. So if you deal with one, you deal with the other. It's a classic two-for-one offer. We've seen in London, by the way, here's the evidence, not just a reduction in the main pollutants I've talked about already, but also a reduction in carbon emissions. You know, there's been a 800,000-tonne reduction in carbon emissions because of Ulez. That's equivalent to 1.1 million flights from London to New York. So the evidence is quite clear. Air pollution is bad. You're right, though, Kate. There are a number of causes of air pollution. The main cause is transport. There are other causes as well. You mentioned wood burners. There's construction. There's housing. There's businesses and so forth. So we're addressing the main cause of this. But also, we've got more electric buses in London than any city in Western Europe. More than a third of the country's charging points are in London. More rapid charging points than any city in Western Europe. We've planted almost 500,000 trees in our great city. We're rewilding our city. So we're doing a number of things to address this public health crisis that is air pollution.
Look, you're standing, you've got a fight on your hands politically and in terms of winning over Londoners. You mentioned housing and other causes of pollutants. Where do you stand that we understand that some changes to the rules are being pushed by Therese Coffey and Michael Gove in terms of increasing the amount or increasing the ability for builders to deal with and build homes, which may mean a relaxation of the rules that prevents them polluting rivers and other water sources. So where do you stand? Would you put homes over health and clean water? Because homes are needed in London too, as is clean water and indeed clean air.
Let's be quite clear. This is a smokescreen from the government. This government has abolished housing targets. This government is not giving cities like London the money we need to build the genuinely affordable homes we need. And so I think it's possible to massively increase the supply of genuinely affordable homes, but also look after our rivers. We've seen the sewage that's been pumped into our rivers. We've seen the beaches that are not safe to swim in. This government is making your viewers believe the reason they can't build more homes is because of these environmental standards. That is nonsense. It's because this government has cowered to its backbench MPs and is not, and has thrown in the towel when it comes to housing targets and not building the homes. It's not because of environmental standards. All
right, Mr Mayor, this day has been coming at you for some time. It's been coming at all of us who live in London at some time. The rest of the country watches agog. You've got a busy day ahead of you. Thanks for spending the start of it with us. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Take care.